Hey everybody. I hope you're all having a great afternoon. I wanted to get on here. I've been meaning to do this for the last week or so. I wanted to get on here and do the stars of Derek Chauvin. I took a whole bunch of notes, so I'm going to go over them with you. Stars of Derek Chauvin. I've printed out his chart. I'm going to put this up on YouTube as well. Hope you guys can see that. So Derek Chauvin was born on the March 19th, 1976. So he was born in the sign of Pisces. Now, going back to this chart, you can see where that tail is. Am I pointing in the right spot here? Third house. Anytime we're dealing with a dragon's tail in the third house, we are dealing with an individual who sometimes has issues with their mental process. The third house is mental process, communication, and we have a tail sitting there, so there are some issues. Now, I took a whole bunch of notes, so bear with me. I'm going to start with his first house. And I'm not exact here because, like I said, I don't have a birth date. I don't have a birth time. So obviously the midheaven is going to be off. The rising sign will be off. But his dragon head and tail and his hidden explain a lot of things. So let's get right down to it. First house. Now he has a Mercury in Pisces in the first house. And Mercury in Pisces is a very difficult placement because number one, it can be evasive. The individual can either be deeply religious or even completely the opposite. Mercury in Pisces always brings issues with mumbled communication, miscommunication. It also represents ungroundingness, not being very grounded. It makes people very dreamy and foggy. And it does sometimes affect rational thought. Moving on to his second house, I do see a Jupiter sitting in the second house. Remember, Jupiter is the Lord of Luck. So wherever the Lord of Luck is placed in your chart, you will be blessed. And with him, if you look, I'll bring it back up. Jupiter is in his second house of Aries. People with a Jupiter in Aries, it's about action. He would have done very, very well in the military. I don't know if he ever served in the military, but he probably should have stayed there in the military. All right, so he has a dragon's head in Scorpio. And what does Scorpio rule? The police. Kind of makes sense. And it's sitting in the ninth house. The ninth house represents laws in some ways. It's courts, it's justice, foreigners, foreign lands, publishing, things like that. Now he has the tail and the third in Taurus. So this makes him become very, very possessive. And hey, here's something on the realm of astro medicine. Anytime you have a dragon's tail in Taurus, what part of the body does Taurus rule? The neck. And he was sitting on George Floyd's neck. You're going to hear me use a lot of words today, and it's going to be repetitive throughout this whole reading that I'm breaking down for you about Derek Chauvin, and that is, anytime you're dealing with a dragon's head in Scorpio, I want you to go look. Where is it? Throw in the moon. Hold on. This is I have all my notes on there. Throw in the moon. Throw in the moon right on a dragon's head in Scorpio, and you are dealing with the most intense emotions, and that's what you're going to hear throughout this whole reading on him is intense emotions, okay? Now he also possesses a hidden dragon, and that hidden dragon is the tail is in Gemini and the head is in Sagittarius, and this is cruising his 10th and his 4th house. Now, when I said, I think I went on yesterday and I was talking about Chauvin, and I said if he's operating on some negative days this week, it's going to be the entire week, because he's also going to, right after he gets out of his negative days in his natal dragon, he moves right into his negative days in his hidden dragon. So if he can get through this week without the courts making a decision, he might get off. Okay? If they make a decision this week, he won't get off. Which brings me to another issue, and I'll bring it up after I'm done going through his chart. Okay? I don't want to jump the gun here. I got a lot to say. So, moving right along here. Like I said, Taurus rules the neck, him pushing down on his neck. That's not a coincidence at all. You know? Coincidence? I think not. That's what I meant to say. Moving on, I want to talk a minute about another placement on his chart, and that is, let's talk about his moon in Scorpio sitting right there on the dragon's head. A moon in Scorpio, people with a moon in Scorpio placement will have issues with power over others, or others having power over them. They're not going to like it. They'd rather have power over others. But anytime you have a dragon's head in Scorpio with a moon sitting there, this is going to create overwhelming emotions, okay? This creates a person who is secretive. This is a person who's intense. This is an individual that will achieve success, but it will bring problematic issues in the end, and we're seeing that right now with Derek Chauvin. And he relies on his emotions. However, one thing about Scorpio, they're a water sign, and he's Pisces, so he's got even more emotion because of that, double water. Scorpios know how to keep everything on the inside. As to where Cancer and Pisces, not as much. Scorpio can be calm, cool, and collective, as we saw in the video over and over and over again. Calm, cool, and collective. But on the inside, he's a raging freaking mess. Okay? If the lesson he has to learn in this lifetime is that if he has used others to achieve his own selfish needs, he's going to regret it. He will regret it in the end. Because of that tail in the 3rd house, it's a scared psyche in some ways. And also, please remember, the 9th house is laws. So there's a lot of intense emotion going on here in the realm of laws. And the dragon's head in Scorpio does rule police. And with this individual, his emotions go from 1 minute he's happy to 1 minute he's sad. They're very intense emotions, and they're very unbalanced. And speaking of unbalanced, let me make sure I covered all my notes on this page before I move forward. All right. And speaking of unbalanced, I'm going to bring up the chart one more time so you can see it. My finger is, there's the P, it's Pluto. Pluto's in the 8th house. He has the planet of life and death in the house of life and death in Libra. Libra rules, besides marriage and partnerships and contracts, it's the laws, the scales. So this is where life and death and drama are coming into his life, beginnings and endings of life. his career as a law enforcement officer are over. Done. The stars never lie. And this also can create, with this placement, relationship issues, and he may also get inheritances throughout his lifetime. That also represents that. Derek Chauvin needs to develop positive channels for his strong will and intense emotions. If he was my client, I would be able to guide him in the proper direction. Moving on into his ninth house again, I want to discuss another planet that's sitting there. The last one. I've covered the moon. We've covered the dragon. Let's talk about this one. If you could see where my finger is on the ninth house. That is the house, we're in the ninth house of laws and justice and court and foreigners, but you have Uranus in Scorpio. So I know subconsciously, deep down, Derek Chauvin is fascinated with the occult or some sort of metaphysics. That is not an accident. Anytime you have a dragon's head in Scorpio, Scorpio rules metaphysics. There is an interest there in that, whether he's aware of it or not. It's really sad, his stars, because if he could have been guided properly to understand his intense emotions, he would have been able to understand himself better. And anytime you have Uranus, this is the planet I'm talking about in the 10th house. He's got Uranus in Scorpio. Uranus is the planet of eruption, explosion, shocking news. And it's in the metaphysical sign of Scorpio. So anytime you have that in the 9th house, sorry, I keep shuffling my papers back and forth. It does represent someone who is going to jump to conclusions in some way with certain things. Moving on to his 10th house, he has Neptune stationed in the 10th. And this is an Aquarius, and this kind of could create karmic difficulties with his father in some ways. What else? Do I have any other notes here on him? I don't want to focus too much of my energy on Mr. Chauvin, but I will say this in conclusion before everything in his chart is pure emotions, and even though he keeps them collective, if the jury comes back this week, he's done. He's going to prison. If he can get through this week without the jury calling anything, he might come out of this okay. I don't think, personally, I think he goes to prison. That's just my personal opinion. There are people out there who think he's not guilty at all, but I have relatives in law enforcement, and even they're like, son of a bitch murdered him. So when police are saying it, you know something's off, and whatever you're programmed to believe or whatever Kool-Aid you're drinking today, you go ahead and believe what you want to believe, but the stars will never lie. In conclusion with this, since he does have a natal dragon in Scorpio and a tail in Taurus, the next dragon energy we move into a tail in Taurus, or a head in Taurus and a tail in Scorpio. The next axis shifts, and it's going to be right on him. So he's either going to exit this world if he can hold on. He's either going to die in jail. Someone's going to kill him. He's either going to kill himself. If he does go free, he's going to have to go into major hiding. And if that brings me to the 26th of this month is a full moon in Scorpio. And it's going to be deadly. And it might have to do with this. I don't know how long. I haven't been following the trial, so I don't know. But it may have to do with this. It may not, but something deadly is going to happen, and I'll post that in my days of caution. But I just wanted to go over Derek Chauvin's chart just a little bit. I'm not going to spend too much time on him. I'll show you the chart once again. And if you have any questions about him on his chart, don't hesitate to contact me at astrologywitch22@gmail.com, or you can go to astrologywitch.com. And the next day or two, I am going to be running some spring specials. But I did want to get on here with this before that trial got over with. And one more time, I'll reiterate, Derek Chauvin is operating on his negative days for this week. What did I say? The 11th, the 12th, the 13th, and then the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th. So the whole week is negative energy for him. And that concludes the stars and fate of Derek Chauvin. If you have any questions, holler, and I will get back on here tomorrow with a show and tell from the witch box that arrived. Still waiting for my products, but I did get my witch box, so I will show and tell with you on that. Until we meet again, ciao!